I want to share a story with you to help you realize why this type of advice is actually not as helpful as you think. This happened a few years ago while I was understanding the puzzle of pain and injuries and how to approach them in my classes. One of my regular students told me that after 6 months in my classes, her chronic back pain is worse than when she started. She had been listening to her body exactly like I suggested to her. That's when I realized this phrase, used by most yoga teachers, is actually making our students' pain worse. If you're a yoga teacher telling students with pain to listen to their body, you're unknowingly perpetuating their suffering. Today, I'm going to show you why this advice fails and give you three specific alternatives that actually help. I'm Monica, and if you're meeting me for the first time, I'm a yoga teacher who specializes in teaching other yoga teachers how to work confidently with injured students. I've taken over 2,000 hours of continuing education in biomechanics, pain science, and injury recovery. I work with injured students and private clients regularly, and I've experienced many common yoga injuries myself. In my Teaching Students with Injuries mentorship program, I help yoga teachers transform from feeling helpless with teaching students with chronic pain to becoming the teachers these students specifically seek out. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why saying listen to your body fails students with chronic pain and have three concrete alternatives you can use in your very next class. First, I'll explain the science of why this advice backfires. Then I'll give you three specific alternatives with exact language that you can use. Finally, I'll show you how to implement this into your classes immediately. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever said, listen to your body, to a student with chronic pain. Of course you have. We all have. It sounds wise, it sounds yogic, and it gets us off the hook when we don't know what else to say. But why do you default to this? Well, it's easy. It sounds like we're empowering the student. It shifts responsibility away from us. It feels like we're staying within our scope, and it's what we were taught in our teacher training. But here's what we don't understand. Students with chronic pain have bodies that are lying to them. Their pain signals are confused. Their protective mechanisms are overactive, and their body wisdom is actually misinformation. When my student Michelle listened to her body told her to avoid all back movement. 6 months later, her range of motion was worse. Her muscles were weaker, and she started to feel pain in other areas of her body. Chronic pain isn't just about tissue damage, it's about nervous system sensitization. When someone has chronic pain, their nervous system becomes hypervigilant, sending pain signals even when there's no actual threat. So let's go back to why saying listen to your body fails. One, it's overprotection. The student's body screams danger at safe movements. Two, it creates avoidance patterns. Students avoid beneficial movements. Number three, it's about deconditioning. Muscles weaken, making the problem worse. And four, it reinforces fear. Students become more afraid of movement because they're afraid they'll feel pain. The body of a student with chronic pain might say stop during a gentle spinal twist that would actually help their mobility. Their nervous system is protecting them from a threat that does not exist. Think of it like this. A car alarm goes off when the leaf touches the windshield. The alarm system is working, but it's giving false information about the actual threat level. There is really no threat here. So let's talk about three specific alternatives that you can teach instead of saying, do what feels right. Instead of saying, listen to your body, say, let's explore this movement together. I want you to notice sensation without immediately labeling it as good or bad. Why does this work? Because it creates partnership. It reduces fear. It teaches the student in pain discernment. And you can continue to say, as we move into this gentle back bend or this gentle twist, notice what you feel. Is it sharp? Is it dull? Does it change as you breathe? We're gathering information, not making judgments. Alternative number 2 is to suggest to the student to find your edge of comfort. Instead of saying, go deeper if your body says yes, say, find the place where you feel sensation but can still breathe comfortably. This is your edge of comfort. The reason why this works is because it gives concrete parameters and helps the student build confidence with their own range of movement. You can continue to say, in this hip opener, move until you feel a stretch, but can you still take 3 deep breaths easily? If you can't breathe deeply, then ease back slightly. And finally, alternative number 3, you can say, today, let's work with your nervous system. Instead of saying, your body knows best, say, your nervous system is trying to protect you. Let's show it this movement is safe by going slowly and breathing deeply. This works because you're teaching students about their nervous system and how we can use it to help create safety in movement. Try saying, I know your neck feels tight and wants to avoid this movement, but let's move extra slowly and breathe deeply to show your nervous system that this movement is safe. Okay, how are you going to practice these alternatives? Start with one alternative in your next class. You don't want to overwhelm your students and you want to be as clear as possible so that if they do find some relief, they realize what the cause was. It's kind of like using one conditioner on your hair instead of 3 and feeling the results afterwards and knowing whether or not that one conditioner makes a difference or not. Next, you can use consistent language so students begin to learn your approach, again, so as not to cause confusion. Next, you can watch for student responses. See if you notice an increased willingness to explore and make sure you document what works for different types of chronic pain. You'll want to start keeping track of this. Don't try to rely on memory alone because you'll forget, trust me. If you find that your students expect you to say, listen to your body, educate them about why you're changing your approach. If you think, what if I give the wrong guidance? Remember, these alternatives help you and your student with pain gather information rather than giving directions. And if you're thinking this feels like I'm trying to treat their pain, well, you're teaching the importance of continuing to move while in pain and awareness while moving. Okay, here are a few red flags you should teach your students to watch out for. Any sharp, shooting pain, any immediate protective responses, an inability to breathe during movement, and immediate panic or fear responses. Remember Michelle, my student with chronic back pain? After I stopped telling her to listen to her body and started using, let's explore this together, everything changed. Instead of avoiding movement with her back, she began exploring gentle ranges with her breath. Her range of motion improved by a lot, and she came back feeling confident in her body again. When you learn to guide students with persistent pain effectively, you become the teachers these students specifically seek out. Your classes become known as safe spaces for people with pain, and your confidence as a teacher grows exponentially. In your very next class, try one of these alternatives instead of simply saying, listen to your body. Notice how your students respond differently when you give them concrete guidance rather than vague instructions. If you're beginning to realize that working with students with persistent pain requires more than what you learned in your 200-hour training, you're absolutely right. This is exactly why I created my Teaching Students with Injuries mentorship program. Because continuing to say, do what feels right, really is not serving your students navigate their pain. In the description, I've included a link to learn more about how I help yoga teachers feel confident and prepared when working with any student who walks into their class. Because when you understand pain science, anatomy, and nervous system responses, you can truly help every student feel safe and supported.